It's December 31st, 2017. We're in Baltimore for the final week of the regular season. The Cincinnati Bengals are down 3 with 52 seconds left. Facing 4th and 12, this play will either end their season or give them a chance to finish 2017 on a higher note. For the Ravens, there's a bit more at stake. Get a stop here, and they're heading to the playoffs. But Week 17 is never that simple. To understand what really makes this moment special, we need to look at what these teams have been through, who today's heroes could be, and how this play is guaranteed to impact a locker room in Miami. We need to rewind. If you wanted the safest bet on this play, it would be Bengals QB Andy Dalton thrown to AJ Green, the wideout who has been Dalton's favorite target for his entire career. It's a connection that their head coach Marvin Lewis hopes can be made once again. These are the guys who have defined the second era of Lewis's reign in Cincinnati, a ride that many believe could be over after today. Lewis got this job back in 2003, which makes him the second longest tenured head coach in the league. But back then, the idea any coach could stick around that long seemed wild. The Bengals hadn't had a winning season in a dozen years, and many viewed the job as the worst in the league, in part because any coach would have to essentially do it with their hands tied behind their back. But Lewis, just the 6th black head coach in NFL history, didn't listen. He immediately did what 3 of his predecessors never could just by getting to 500. Then in 2005, Lewis led Cincinnati to their first division title since 1990. That division winner also had a star pairing at QB and receiver paving the way. Carson Palmer and Chad Johnson helped define the first 8 seasons of Lewis's time in Cincinnati. Unfortunately, playoff heartbreak also defined those years. And following 2010, after just 2 wildcard weekend appearances, the band broke up. But Palmer and Johnson's 4-win finale of a season did mean that the Bengals could find some solid replacements. They selected Green 4th overall in 2011, then 1 round later got someone to throw to him. And although the hope that surrounded this team rested more in the future than the present, those rookies plus a defense on the rise said why not both? Their very first year, playoffs. 2012, playoffs. In 2013, they took the division, something they did again 2 years later. Their 5 straight postseasons was a first in franchise history. But like their predecessors, the results seemed almost unfair. There were terribly timed injuries, even more terribly timed personal fouls, and some just classic terrible play. They even suffered from the success itself. Following that 5th consecutive playoff appearance, Cincinnati coaches started getting offers elsewhere. So with a good number of new faces on their coaching staff to start 2016, both sides of the ball took a step back. It was much more apparent on offense, though, partially because AJ Green missed time with a bad hamstring. But the 2017 season proved even with him things were off. It started with their offensive coordinator getting the boot after just 9 points across their first 2 games. The scoring improved, but they struggled to stay consistent. A 3-game skid to start December locked in another losing record with 2 games left. That coincided with a report that Lewis would allegedly be leaving Cincinnati after this season. While he brought a new level of success to the organization, this Bengals team has grown used to a different sort of disappointment. So with all they'd been through and the uncertainty ahead, a Week 17 win would be bigger than it seems on paper. Plus, added motivation came with the fact that they had the chance to keep a division rival out of the playoffs. And when the game began, they looked determined to do just that. Cincinnati opened the game with a long, methodical drive that Dalton capped off by finding tight end Tyler Kroft for a touchdown. That pair connected again in the second quarter to provide the bulk of a 17-3 lead late in the first half where the Ravens couldn't get much going on offense. But obviously, looking at the score, that has changed a bit. The Ravens have put themselves in a spot where, with 1 stop, they're off to the playoffs. And this is a team that's played well enough over the second half of 2017 to be a genuine postseason threat. These Ravens still have some familiar leaders in Joe Flacco and Terrell Suggs, but it's been a long time since they won the Super Bowl. And like Cincinnati, Baltimore struggled to stay consistent at the start of 2017. They shut out these Bengals in Week 1, beat up the historically hapless Browns a week later, then got absolutely blown out by the Jaguars. That up and down pattern continued, and Baltimore hit their Week 10 bye under 500. Over the first 9 games, Flacco had thrown more picks than touchdowns. The defense stepped up when they weren't put in tough spots, but the entire team had work to do if they wanted to make the postseason for the first time in 3 years. Veteran safety Eric Weddle pointed out that realistically some team had to make a run, so why not them? That soothsayer Weddle proved correct on all counts. Baltimore came out of their bye and won 5 of 6, with the lone loss being an extremely tight game against the then AFC leading Steelers. Turnover margin became the story of their season. Over their first 9 games, they sat at a pretty solid differential. But in the next 5 games alone, they snagged 15 takeaways to just 2 turnovers by the offense. Baltimore's secondary did much of the work, with Weddle leading the way. Do-it-all linebacker C.J. Mosley got in on the action as well, and down on the line, Suggs and Matt Judon were either forcing QBs into riskier throws or making the play themselves. All of that helped them get to 9-6, which let the other part of Weddle's statement become true. They went on their run, but could have made life easier if they'd won all the games. Still, heading into Week 17, they were one of 2 AFC teams who controlled their own destiny. But as we know from the first half against the Bengals, they really didn't play like that was the case. Flacco in particular only found a groove in the way that a bowling ball finds its groove in the gutter. But then 2 things happened as the first half came to a close. Ravens return man Chris Moore took a kickoff 87 yards to the Cincinnati 6. Flacco then let Moore finish what he had started to cut their deficit in half. The other thing that happened occurred elsewhere. The Buffalo Bills and the Tennessee Titans both took leads into their respective halftimes. That's important because while the Ravens can get into the playoffs with a win, they could also sneak in if either the Bills or the Titans lose today. However, if all of the first half results hold, the Ravens would be the odd man out. Whether they maintained momentum from Moore's play or realized they weren't getting any help elsewhere, Baltimore figured things out. Well, first, Flacco threw a pick that Darqueze Dennard took back 89 yards for a score, but after that, Baltimore figured things out. Flacco got help from Alex Collins taking control of the ground game, and the same offense that went 3 and out 6 times in the first half managed 3 straight scoring drives. Their performance today mirrored the Baltimore season up to this point, inconsistent until it mattered most. But really what matters most is the score right here. Ravens up 3. A lead they're likely feeling pretty good about given the current state of Cincy's offense. Tyler Kroft has been the Bengals' most productive aerial threat on the day, but now he's watching from the sideline after coming down awkwardly just 1 snap ago. Green is usually guaranteed to get a look here, but on his 10 targets today, the wideout has just 2 catches for 17 yards. Baltimore has doubled Dalton's favorite guy more often than not, which will likely be the case once again. That means if someone's going to get open for Cincinnati, it'll probably be either Tyler Boyd in the slot or Brandon LaFell up top. LaFell won a Super Bowl with the Patriots, a national championship at LSU, and has had a 2017 that honestly might make him expendable, in part because of the guy to his left. Boyd has had the best day of any Bengals pass catcher currently on the field. Cincinnati drafted him 2 years ago in the 2nd round with the hope that he could create a solid 1-2 punch alongside Green. Boyd's a strong route runner who knows how to get open, but his sophomore season has left quite a bit of room to improve. Granted, he missed 6 games with a knee injury. These are the likely suspects if the outcome of this game is going to change. And the outcome officially matters because this is the only game of consequence still being played. Just like Baltimore, Tennessee had a win and end situation. Since they did that, the last wildcard spot comes down to either the Ravens or the Bills, who are watching this moment just like us. Hey guys. Buffalo entered today knowing they needed help to make the playoffs. The fact that help could come from Cincinnati feels pretty fitting in a misery loves company sort of way. See, while the Bengals and Marvin Lewis have a rough streak of losing 7 straight wildcard games, Buffalo hasn't even had the chance to lose a playoff game since 2000. And that last chance ended with one of the most talked about walk-off touchdowns in NFL history. Then there's Buffalo's 4 straight Super Bowl losses, and at this point I should personally say I'm sorry, Bills fans. The point is that this moment is the closest the franchise has come to the playoffs in ages. It's the first time since 2004 that the Bills even entered Week 17 with a chance to make the postseason. Their playoff drought of 17 years is the longest across all 4 major North American sports. For guys like defensive tackle Kyle Williams, who's been with the Bills all 12 seasons of his career, ending that drought would mean more than just his first shot at the playoffs. It's something for the entire city of Buffalo. So now, just like us, the Bills are putting off a shower in order to watch what happens next. One play, Baltimore heads to the playoffs with a stop. The Bills' hopes are alive if the Bengals gain at least 12 yards. Luckily for Buffalo's players, since they just tuned in, they aren't aware that Cincinnati has 0 plays of 12 or more yards in the second half. If that's going to change, it'll be thanks to Andy Dalton, a guy who's gotten to play the hero quite a bit in his 7 years with Cincinnati. One of his strengths entering the league was the classic vague statement of he's a winner. Even in a down year, he's proved that to be true, moving up to number 2 in all-time wins for Cincinnati. And although the season began with a 4-interception day while hosting these Ravens, he's helped get his team in a spot for proper payback. A first down here would give them a chance to not just end their season on a high note, but possibly ruin everything that their division rival has worked for. It could be the final moment for their longtime coach with an uncertain future. The Bills watching in Miami need points, but even a 4th down conversion would let them breathe. And Baltimore's defense can put a stop to all of that right here, then head to the playoffs themselves with as much momentum as any team in the AFC. It all comes down to this. 4th and 12, Bengals down 3. Welcome to a moment in history.
4th down, Dalton steps up, Dalton throws, it's complete, caught by Boyd, Tyler Boyd, touchdown, remarkable!
Oh, sorry, turn the TV back on because we need to check in on the Buffalo locker room. Bills kicker Stephen Hauschka captured his teammates devolving from grown adults to children finding out mom ordered pizza, all thanks to Tyler Boyd and Andy Dalton. The same happened for their fans hanging around Hard Rock Stadium and everyone back in Buffalo as they watched New York's only football team reach the playoffs. From there, Bills fans proved exactly how much this moment meant to them. They flooded the Dalton's Foundation, primarily with $17 donations, one for each playoff-less season. Even after the Bills exited the postseason, the money kept rolling in, totaling nearly $500,000 sent to the Dalton's charity, with another $100,000 plus for the youth athletics program that Boyd grew up a part of. And then, in the 2018 preseason, Buffalo got a chance to say thank you in person. Sports can be okay sometimes. Okay, but when Tony Romo selflessly allowed Seattle to advance in the playoffs, no one donated a dime. I see how it is. Check out that moment in history if you want, or another of our videos here. And if you subscribe to our channel, I'll send you cookies. Not in like a weird way though, just as friends.